Matters of the heart and heroes. Vixen adjusted her necklace for the 5th time, the Tantu totem catching the last rays of sunset over Zambesi's rolling plains. She didn't do nervous, not really. Mari McCabe had faced down alien invasions and cosmic threats without breaking a sweat. Yet somehow, waiting for Dr. Mist outside this upscale restaurant had her stomach doing somersaults. "It's just dinner?" she muttered to herself. With a 10,000-year-old wizard who founded the first superhero team in history, no pressure. Talking to yourself is the first sign of an interesting mind, came a resonant voice behind her. Vixen turned to see Namo, Dr. Mist, approaching with an easy grace that belied his ancient age. He wore a tailored blue suit that somehow complemented his traditional golden armbands. "And what's the second sign?" she asked, finding her composure. "Dating me, apparently." His smile was warm enough to melt the ice caps. "Shall we?" The restaurant, perched atop Zambesi's newest skyscraper, offered views that stretched to the horizon. Their table, positioned by floor-to-ceiling windows, practically floated above the savannah. "I must say," Namo began after they'd ordered, "when you suggested meeting in your homeland rather than my pocket dimension, I was relieved. Last time I hosted anyone for dinner, Zatanna accidentally turned all my silverware into snakes." Vixen laughed. "That's nothing. Last month, I had the Justice League over for brunch. Flash ate everything before anyone else could take a bite. And then Green Lantern's ring created construct replacements that tasted like, well, green light." "The burden of exceptional friends," Namo said, raising his glass. "Though I must say, yours are considerably younger than mine. Did I tell you I once had to rescue Cleopatra from a crocodile god? Most awkward double date in history." Their conversation flowed as easily as the wine, from comparing notes on magical artifacts to debating the best way to neutralize a rampaging sea monster. "I still say channeling elephant strength is more practical than creating a mystical containment field," Vixen insisted. "Perhaps," Namo conceded, "but my way doesn't risk getting your outfit dirty." Speaking of which, Mari gestured to his suit, who dressed the immortal guardian of Kor tonight. "Because they deserve a raise." "I've had 10 millennia to develop my fashion sense," he replied with a wink. "Though I admit, the first few thousand years were questionable. Loincloths were comfortable but limiting. Halfway through dessert, their communicators buzzed simultaneously. "Duty calls?" Nomo asked. Mari checked her device and groaned. Gorilla Grodd is telepathically controlling a herd of elephants outside the National Museum. How terribly inconsiderate of him. Dr. Mist stood, straightening his tie. "Shall we?" Minutes later, Vixen soared above the chaos, the power of eagles flowing through her. Below, Dr. Mist's hands glowed with ancient power as he erected barriers between the controlled elephants and fleeing civilians. "I'm beginning to think our dating life will never be conventional," Vixen called down as she dive-bombed Grodd. Dr. Mist's laughter rang out over the pandemonium. "My dear, we've lived too long and seen too much for conventional. But perhaps," he paused to deflect a telepathic blast, "and that's precisely why this works. Later, with Grodd contained and the elephants peacefully munching leaves at the zoo, they stood atop the museum's dome, watching stars appear over Zambesium's dome, watching stars appear over Zambesi." "So," Mari said, brushing dust from her costume, "does this count as our first date, or should we try again tomorrow?" Namo took her hand, his ancient eyes twinkling with mischief. "I've waited 10,000 years to meet someone like you. What's another day?" Vixen smiled, leaning against his shoulder. "Tomorrow, then. But fair warning. I'm picking the venue, and it won't include any telepathic gorillas." "I should hope not," Dr. Mist replied. "Those are strictly third date material."